Welcome back. And not only is today National Coming Out Day, but October is LGBTQ History Month, a time to learn about the history of lesbian, gay, bisexual, trans, and queer rights. That's why we're bringing in Dr. Tim Retzloff. He's an assistant professor for the Center for Gender in Global Context and Department of History at Michigan State University. Doctor, thank you so much for being here with us this morning. We appreciate it.
Well, thank you for having me.
And we know that you wrote your dissertation at Yale about gay and lesbian life and politics in Metro Detroit. Tell us what inspired you to take a closer look at the city's past, and what did you discover doing that?
Well, as an undergrad, I had a class with Dr. Matthew Lassiter on American suburbia, and I had already begun looking at, various aspects of Michigan's queer past, including my hometown of Flint. And from Professor Lassiter's class, I really began to understand and see Detroit in a new light. Most of the LGBTQ histories that have been done were major cities like New York and San Francisco and Philadelphia and Washington. And Detroit had a very different story in that it wasn't just the city itself, but the surrounding suburbs that had both queer life and queer activism going on, going back many, many decades.
We know you're also reworking this dissertation into a book manuscript. What so far has been the biggest takeaway when it comes to specifically the city's history?
Well, I think one thing is that there is a history to Detroit. There is a queer history to Detroit that dates back certainly to World War II, and there's glimpses of it prior to the war. But in some ways, that it has also been shaped by unique factors related to Detroit, the auto industry, the segregation of the city, and aspects of radicalism in the past have all served to inform how people live their lives. People made a good living. So there was like a rich bar life. People are often surprised to hear about, how far back the bar life goes. Certainly there was a cluster down by Cadillac Square at Farmer and Bates, dating to the 1940s, that lasted through the 1950s and 60s. And then starting in the 50s and then accelerating over time, the bars begin to move further and further out into the city. So you get, by 1970, you get the big heart of gay life in Detroit is around Palmer Park and the Palmer Park apartment districts. At the same time, you've got kind of differences in Black queer life and white queer life. There's kind of segregation that the Kerner Commission, which looked at the 1967 uprisings, noticed that was a predicament that many, many cities were experiencing. And in Detroit, it had a very notable impact, an important impact on LGBTQ life. So those were some of the things that were really rich to explore. And it was a new story, in part because, I mentioned, the rich bar life. Well, by the 1970s, most of the customers of white gay bars are coming into the city from the suburbs. So there's kind of this destination entertainment district phenomena going on that's really interesting and important to know.
I know we talked a little bit about your manuscript, but you're also working on a nonfiction comic book. What can you tell us about that and where people can find that?
Well, the comic book is actually out. My friend Isabel Claire Paul did the illustrations for that, and I did the script for that. It was based on oral histories and various press accounts, both the mainstream press and the underground press. And it was published 2 years ago for the 50th anniversary of Michigan's first Pride in 1972. There's still some copies that are available at some limited areas. People can look at the website Come Out in Detroit to see where that can be found. We're really pushing to get it into public libraries, and the Library Network, which is this consortium of libraries in Southeast Michigan has really been instrumental in helping to make it available for libraries that want to make it part of their collection.
Yeah.
So I would approach their public libraries to see if they can get copies there.
Great place to start. All right. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, Dr. Retzloff. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.